First, I wanted to clarify something we heard yesterday from Secretary of State / National Security Advisor Marco Rubio. He labeled the conflict yesterday as it stood as a misunderstanding, and we went to air yesterday not knowing what he meant by that and quite confused, as apparently others were. We were able to get a little bit of clarification today. Apparently what he meant by the misunderstanding, as he labeled it, was that there was what he views as essentially a tribal conflict between two tribes in which the Syrian military was seen as not taking enough action, which drew in the Israeli military, which struck Syrian targets, including the defense ministry. He's labeling that as a misunderstanding in that it should have been, in his mind, I guess, a tribal issue of sorts. It became a country versus country issue, the Israeli military and the Syrian military. And he thought that essentially from a misunderstanding standpoint, it got blown out of proportion, which again is another understatement, but at least we got a little bit of clarification by what he meant by that. We asked State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce yesterday about the commitments that the Syrian government had made to the Americans. Recall, this is an American government which has put a whole lot of time, energy, and political capital into trying to ensure that the al-Shura government survives, that it thrives, that the Syrian economy can get back on track. It's lifted sanctions. It's lifted foreign terrorist organization designations. There's just been a whole lot of back and forth that's happened since the Assad government has fallen. But one of the commitments that the Syrian government made to the Americans was that they would protect minority communities in Syria. Well, we've seen a massacre of the Alawites early on in al-Shura's tenure, now a massacre of the Druze. We asked spokeswoman Tammy Bruce yesterday, what is the message from the Americans to the al-Shura government, considering they're not living up to these early promises? Let's give a listen to her answer.
This is essentially alluded to before when we discussed this, is that part of the problem in the beginning of something like this that has been dealing with a whole host of horrible situations for generations, a new situation, a situation that's fluid, also in a region that has been in constant trouble with constant tribal issues, long-standing tribal issues, where there's a chance to change an environment. And the reaction to the things that will occur. We never expect in any dynamic, including this situation or other dynamics that we're dealing with in the Middle East or elsewhere, where because we have an idea or something new is being implemented or that we're present and that we're working on something, it doesn't mean it's going to be a utopia immediately. You have to recognize that these are things that might occur, be prepared to address them if and when they do, and after the fact, find out, yes, what occurred, what needs to change. I know, of course, that it's not just about stopping an event or dealing with things in a static manner, but each dynamic moves us along in finding out what the challenges are and how to fix that. And that is clearly going to be the case here with this situation.
Mike, I want to ask, because after hearing from the U.S. State Department spokes, and just as you mentioned, the United States has put their time, they put their money, literally with sanctions, on possibly the wrong bet. Is that any of the messaging that we're hearing from the United States, if this does continue to happen and we see the lack of looking after these minorities, does it possibly show the U.S. put maybe too early trust in the al-Shura government?
You know, it's interesting because we got the opposite reaction, and understandably so, from the Israeli government. Benjamin Netanyahu and Gideon Sa'ar and other officials have been saying from the get-go, listen, al-Shura, he's Jelani, he's a terrorist in his suit. He hasn't given up his past, and that's been their case all along. There was never any public pressure or public demeaning or criticism of the American effort, but certainly behind the scenes, they expressed their leeriness in the American effort to advance the al-Shura government to the extent that it's been advanced, and the legitimacy it's essentially been given by the Americans. No early sense here from the Trump administration as to how much rope they're essentially going to give al-Shura to fix this. I don't think one particular incident is then they're simply going to pull the plug. There's been too much invested in it in the short term. But like anything with the Trump administration in terms of foreign policy, they want to see results. And if they don't see results, either they're going to start demanding results or they're simply going to pull their support completely. That's kind of been the MO of the Trump administration's foreign policy, especially here in the second term.